Alright guys, welcome back. A little update since the last video. I think the last video I left you guys with the first start of this B18C in here, and it did have an idle surge issue. I think I've got it mostly worked out. My friend Justin sent over a few different tunes, one with like HTS, which is Honda Tuning Suite, and another with Chrome, and there was a couple of variations as well with like a 5% and 10% duty cycle on the IACV. I didn't pull that off yet to clean it or anything like that. But the new tune seems to have really reduced the amount of surge that it's got. Occasionally it still will rev up 2 or 3 times and then stop after like a throttle blip. But I'm going to move on from that right now. I will pull that IACV off eventually and clean that out. And hopefully that will clear that up completely. But I did run into another issue after letting this thing warm up and revving it and different things, trying to figure out that idle surge issue off camera. I noticed that there was some coolant leaking a little bit from this radiator, and I should have known better, but the stock fan that went in there was really tough to get in there. I didn't really show it on camera. I kind of had to wedge it in there between the exhaust heat shield and the radiator. The fan shroud on the fan itself was really pressed against the radiator, and that vibration from the engine and that heat shield pressing against the fan, it wore a small hole in the radiator itself, and it was leaking. So I ended up having to order a new OE replacement radiator as well as a slim fan to use over here to give me a little bit more clearance to prevent that from rubbing. So there's a 2 or 3 millimeter gap in there now. That's going to be plenty to keep that engine from rubbing up against that fan and causing any issue in the future. So that was a small bit of work, but it wasn't too bad. Just had to pull that out and drain the coolant and everything. No big deal there. Today's video is really going to be focused on getting this exhaust on here. I got to weld up the catalytic converter, and I'll show you a few different parts that I've got over here. So let's take a look at what I got. Alright, as you can see, I bought several different parts here to create my own catalytic converter and adapt it to the ITR collector as well as the Greddy SP2 exhaust. The Greddy SP2 exhaust is designed to mate up to the stock CRX exhaust, which is about 2-inch flange on the exhaust side. So I didn't really want to cut the Greddy SP2 exhaust to customize it, because in the future, if I ever wanted to sell it, it will basically reduce the value if it can't bolt up directly to stock CRX. So I wanted to leave that as is. 2 inches is plenty for what I've got here. So I really just needed to adapt 2-inch to 2.5 inch. So I went ahead and got a 2.5 inch Flowmaster high flow cat. No experience whatsoever with it, but it looks like it's a high quality piece. So I got a 2.5 inch donut gasket adapter here. I'm going to weld those two together, as well as the 2-inch to 2.5 inch adapter here for the exhaust side, or the muffler side. That's going to be welded onto there, and that will go to the cat. So hopefully this goes smoothly. I haven't welded a whole lot in the past. I've never welded stainless before. I'm going to MIG weld it, so it's not going to be real pretty, but as long as it doesn't leak, that's all I'm looking for. The reason why I went ahead and bought all these parts to create my own cat is I really didn't want to use this 2-inch, which is actually less than 2-inch internal diameter on these flanges, as well as the fact that this cat is designed for a B16 swap in a CRX, and I do plan on doing a B16 swap in the yellow CRX in the future, and instead of having to create another catalytic converter for that, as well as cut this one and modify it for the 2.5 inch collector here, I went ahead and just decided to keep that as is, and I can use that on the yellow car and just do it one time and create a new one for my B18C CRX. So I'm going to go ahead and jump in here and give this thing a shot, get it all mated up underneath the car, tack weld it, and see how far I can get in getting this thing put together. Alright, well, those are some of the worst welds you'll probably ever see, but this is going under the car, and like any good welder, I went ahead and just ground those welds down and use a flat disc to smooth them out as best I could. I don't see any holes here, so there shouldn't be any leaks, but if there are, I'll pull it out and I'll tack weld those up. No big deal, so I'm going to go ahead and get this thing installed on the car. Hopefully there aren't any leaks, like I said, and hopefully this thing sounds a lot better. I'm going to go ahead and give you a before sound clip without any exhaust on here, just to give you a comparison of what the difference is. Okay, the CRX was off the road from October 2023 up until May 2025, but it is officially back on the road again. And I tell you what, the B18C really makes a big difference from the B16A. It'll break loose at the top of first and into second gear, probably more than that, but I really wasn't pushing it. I don't want to push the boundaries too much just yet. This thing is still freshly put together. I am going to do a transmission change, the oil change on that, and the engine oil change as well. This thing has got probably 10-year-old oil in it that's been sitting. It looked really clean. It's got low miles on the engine, so I wasn't too concerned about it, but I am going to swap that out pretty soon, as well as the transmission fluid. Since I did do that rebuild, I want to go ahead and change that pretty quickly. I am going to have to get a new AC hose. The fan issue that I ran into before, where I had to wedge that fan in there, it was rubbing up against the AC hose. It has a little bit of a wear spot to it, so I am going to swap that out, and then I will charge the AC. And really, this thing is going to be ready to hit the road. It probably needs a little bit of an alignment because the steering wheel was a little bit crooked driving. It will need an upgrade of tires as well. These are pretty fresh tires. They're old, but they are low mileage because I haven't been driving this car a lot, but they are kind of like all seasons. But I'm probably going to upgrade to something like I've got on the Type R here, these Falcon Nazzinis. Something a little stickier, something that's going to work a little bit better for this car since it's got a lot more power now. I'm super happy that today is finally the day that I've got this thing on the road. I'm ready to get this thing clay barred and washed and polished up again because it does have some sediment in the paint from sitting so long. Once I get that all done, I will ceramic coat it. I have never ceramic coated this car. I've kind of been afraid to do so because I've always kind of been sanding and buffing different areas, but I really need to get that taken care of before it's too late. I hope you've enjoyed today's video. I'm super excited to have this done, and stay tuned and we'll see what's in store for both of these cars in the future. See you next time.